This is afternoon programming with L. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 12 of the, I was about to say the Not Out Here podcast, but it's the afternoon programming podcast. And of course, it's me, your usual host or, just whatever guy talking about random shit on the podcast. But Easy L, whatever. But man, it's crazy that these episodes I've actually just really grown to like love. It's funny. Before I introduce the guest, when I first started this podcast, I thought I might have an occasional guest, but mostly it's just going to be me talking. But then the more that I started to invite people, I was like, yo, this is actually pretty dope. Just talking to people and like keeping it in what to me is like a short format, like from 30 to 45 minutes to at most an hour, because I think a lot can be said within a short time without having to like just keep going. And plus it keeps people wanting to come back for more. I say all that to say that I've been loving everybody that's been coming on the podcast. This guest that I have today is my vocal coach who's helped me like get more confident using my voice and just like in my music career, and just an amazing friend, an amazing brother. We have my vocal coach here, Avery. What up, Avery?
What's going on? Look, you got me over here about to, ask for the Kleenex,
That's hilarious.
What's up, L?
What's going on? Hey, real quick before we get into it and go into the podcast, you want to promote anything you got going on, social media or anything like that for people to find you?
Oh, you know what? That's so kind of you. I am on social media by way of Instagram, okay. IG, and my IG is Avery Floyd Jr., AveryFloydJr. And you can just follow me on there and see what I do. And of course, my brand is Vocal Coaching Moment, by breath, by sound, by moment. Working with vocalists of all capacities, be it singers, actors, public speakers, preachers, all of that. I'm gonna get you right. I'm gonna make sure,
No, definitely. if you're an artist or just an actor or just you want to improve like on your vocals and actually making like your voice like great, I recommend Avery. Avery's an amazing vocal teacher, amazing artist. Because you're an artist as well. Like you do music and you sing and everything.
Yeah, and sometimes I be forgetting about that. Because you know how it is. You do like, we were just talking about how you do like 11,000 things. And I was picking the L because I was like next week he's going to be like, yeah, I make wicker furniture. And then the next week he's going to be like, yeah, I retile bathrooms for like the celebrities. Like it's crazy. This man is like living, breathing conglomerate. It's
That's
crazy.
Hilarious. But you can find Avery on Spotify, iTunes, anything for like your music?
All social platforms, all digital platforms. I'm sorry, I gotta get better at this. This is crazy.
That's all good. Then
I'm so used to be behind the camera.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. And then also AveryFloydJr.com.
There you go.
As well too. So you can contact me any way you want to. I will give out my number, but I ain't doing that yet.
No, I feel it. Well, thank you, first of all, for being on the podcast.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me, man.
No, definitely. And like, it's funny because I was thinking of like, I'm always trying to get people who I feel like are amazing at what they do and I think are just great people. And so like and then plus it's just like when you have great people, like most of the time you're going to have great conversations. And so like, that's why I was like, I got to get Avery on here because this podcast too is like, I want to interview not just people, of course, people in the music industry or that are a part of it, but then also people who are in the therapy business or who are in science and stuff like that, just because interesting conversations are just like, it's good to listen to. You be like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, wow, this is crazy that I'm learning about this just a different way. And then plus just having like dope
fellow Pisces.
Yeah,
Come on now, we got to represent.
Exactly. So getting into it, I wanted to ask you, first of all, where were you born? Like, where were you from?
So I am from can we curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm from a country ass place called I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, but I was born in this country ass place called Gastonia. When I was young, I didn't want to admit it, but like when I grew up, I was like, who cares? Be great from like the country. So yes, I am born, and I guess I would say kind of raised North Carolinian by way of Charlotte,
Gotcha.
Queen City.
Okay. How long did you live there before you moved here?
Man, okay, so my father was in the Navy.
Okay.
So as soon as I was born, man, we shipped off to San Diego. And then from there we just lived like all over, man. Like we just traveled. Like wherever he was stationed, that's where we were.
Wow, okay. And then where I guess eventually was one of the places that you ended up being stationed at in Atlanta?
No, man. I never even wanted to visit here, let alone move here, because I just thought it was so busy. I was like, this is too much for me. And my mom moved down here. And so she had got married. And so I never wanted to come. So I just came down to check up on her to make sure I didn't have to blow, her husband's head off for acting the wrong way. So I was just coming to check up, what I'm saying? It's like the roles reversed. And so a childhood friend of mine actually lived down here, and she just took me all over the city. And it was just, and dude, I wasn't even doing anything musical at that time. I was just like amazed at like all that the city had to offer. You know what I'm saying? It's so vibrant. There's so much going on here, but yet it's like metropolitan, but then it's suburban at the same time. And it's a melting pot. So I was attracted to the city. And while I was visiting, I said, I'm gonna try to find a job. And if I find a job while I'm here, I'm gonna stay. If I don't, I'll pack my little bags and return back to Vienna where I belong. That's from Sound of Music, if y'all don't know. For my music, my musical heads out there. I just had to throw it in there. But y'all, I found a job in 2 days.
Wow.
And 12 years later and counting, here I am.
That's crazy.
I know, man. You just never know what life will take you.
No, definitely. And it's funny that you said earlier, coming from North Carolina, where you're from like a very country place, moving to a bigger city is always like a shock almost. Because like I'm from Arkansas, born in Little Rock, raised in North Little Rock, and that's still like city-ish, but it's not Atlanta, where you have hundreds of thousands of people living here, and the traffic is crazy. There's so much going on.
Exactly.
I remember what it reminds me of is when I first went to New York, and that was a really big shock because everybody, just so many millions of people packed in together, and it's always like moving. It never stops, And so it was crazy because for me, kind of like you, like the stars aligned for me to move here, because originally I was planning to move to Los Angeles because I went to school for film, and I was like, let me go to LA. And I had film friends who moved over there, but like it was so fucking expensive to live in LA at the time, and it still is. But I was like, I don't think I can make it over here. And then slowly but surely things started to like pave a way for me to come out here. And I was just like, kind of like you, I was like, well, let me go here for a year. And after a year, if I feel like I've gotten everything I need to get out of it, then I'll move. But every year I was like, no, I think I need more. And then now, here I am.
And just thank God you're here, because he is also my videographer. So I need him wherever,
I know.
Man, and I agree with you, man, because like New York, it's funny you said that, because my side, my family is also from New York. So it's crazy because my great grandmother, like my grandma and her brothers and sisters, their rite of passage was when they were 18, if they didn't go off to school, they were sent up to New York with the rest of our family.
Wow.
So, because I guess they felt like, okay, you get the Southern hospitality, but you need to get that Big Apple City mentality, like get that hustle. Yeah. And actually, my mom's dad, my grandfather, that's where my grandmother met my grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah. So I New York, I love it. It just re-energizes you every time you go up there. And like you said, it inspires you to up your hustle. There's no city like it ever.
No, definitely.
And the shopping, man, please.
No, definitely. It's wild. And like I said, it also, Atlanta is like New York, with you have just a melting pot of cultures and different types of things going on, and you get sort of introduced to so many different things, and it's almost like educational in a way. You're like, wow, I didn't know things like this existed, and so on and so forth. And so it was super dope.
Is it bad that when I hear people say melting pot, I think of fondue? No, I don't know why, because I just like just dipping things in cheeses and sauces and chocolate.
No, definitely. It's funny because I think of like a little melting pot, like people just pouring different things into the pot, and everybody somebody's mixing it or whatever.
My greedy ass.
That's I wanted to ask you, so how did your journey to music start? Like, were you a singer in church, and is where that began, or is it something else that kind of got you into it?
Bro, man, that's good question. So I got serious about singing at 13. Okay. Thanks to my awesome family. They were always very supportive because I actually grew up in an athletic family. And so I started off, I always felt like the oddball out.
Yeah.
And so I was playing sports. I sucked at basketball, but I killed track and field because I'm super fast and long. And I swam competitively, but I played every sport. But I was just kind of like a bench rider.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Defense on the basketball court, okay? Because you asked me but music started for me seriously at the age of 13.
Wow.
But I discovered something in my voice at the age of 5.
Really?
Yeah, The Lion King had came out.
Okay. Yeah.
I was 5 years old, and I remember being playing, and it was back when kids like actually used to get off their asses and be allowed to go outside, and you be out there for like days. I used to get my ass whooped because the street lights came on, and I would get my jeans dirty and stuff. But I remember being in we used to climb trees a lot.
Yeah.
And this was back when I was in Fort Dix. My dad was stationed in Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Wow.
And so we were on base housing, and there was this woods, on the kind of like the edges of the base housing. Anyway, we would go out and play. And I remember it was autumn because the leaves were just colored and crunchy and smelling good. And so we were in the tree, and we were just, on different branches and stuff. And we were talking about The Lion King or whatever. And I remembered they were talking about the song, A Wee Wait, whatever. And I said, oh, yeah, I can sing that. I was like, no, you can't. I was like, yeah, I can sing, what I'm saying? I can sing that. And so I started singing In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle. And I remember their faces going from like to.
What?
And that was when it like connected for me. I was like, wait a minute. And then not only that, but the feel of the vibrations coming out of me, I could actually feel it.
Wow.
And from that point on, I was like, okay, this is something that I liked. Yeah. But then I just never really thought too much about it until I turned 13. Okay. I kind of, 4th or 5th grade, I had got like a solo or something like that in like the spring concert. No, back up, 4th grade. I had our graduation. Yeah. No, 5th grade, get it right. I was singing My Country 'Tis of Thee. Okay. And that was the second time where I just saw parents and my, fellow little kid mates doing that same look. Because remember, I would never really be forward about singing. Of course. But when the time came, I would just do it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's that feeling again. Yeah. And then when I was 13 years old, that's when I joined the choir. Okay. Nations Ford Community Church, Charlotte, North Carolina. Rest in peace, Bishop Philip M. Davis. And that's where I really got my training. Okay. I was on the praise team, as well, youth praise team, choir. And so that's when I really learned about performance and singing outside yourself, because in spiritual situations they teach you that it's not just about you, of course, and that it's singing in service. And that's why I learned the humanitarian approach, that this is not just an entertainment thing, it's not just spiritual, but it's humanitarian because you're serving people. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And then my aunt heard me, and she got me voice lessons, 6 months of voice lessons from this vocalist at a neighboring church, Rosebelt, love you. And she was my vocal teacher. And she was phenomenal, man. I mean, she could go from singing gospel like Shirley Caesar to singing like Gladys Knight and Barbra Streisand. Like, she was just amazing. Yeah. And so she didn't like vocal coaching, but I asked her, well, why did you do it for me? And she said, because you could actually sing and you had talent, and I wanted to work with you. Wow. And I worked with her, and after 6 months, she said, I have nothing more for you. You got it. Just grow. And so then from there on, I started singing like at weddings. Okay. I started singing backup for artists, people that were actually having musical situations. Okay. That knew about me. And I was like 13, 14, 15, singing with like college kids and stuff like that. Wow. Yeah. So I had, to kind of grow up kind of fast in the circuit. And one of my music mentors, was kind of wanted me to be introduced to the club scene. But my mom was like, nah, I don't want to do that yet. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. My dad was like, hell yeah. But it really just started singing in church. That's where the love and the service part came from. Okay. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. So then you're here in church and you're like, okay, I enjoy doing this. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, did you expect like for it to go like so like quick like that, to be like, here I am in church, and next thing you know, you're singing this circuit? Bro, no. And I guess when we get forward to it, but like, I love singing. I love doing it. Singing and swimming were like my two things. Yeah. Actually, I had a swim meet the day I joined the choir. I had a choice. My mom was like, okay, you could either do the choir or you could either, go to the swim meet. And I was like, I want to join the choir. You know what I'm saying? I would, I'm trying to sing. You know what I'm saying? Because they would go on trips and travel, and I wanted to do that stuff. So, and then when it got into like a little did I know that I was doing professional things because I was young. So I was just like, oh, let's sing. So when I started doing gigs and singing at weddings and singing at banquets and doing different type of things, it really didn't hit me because at that moment it wasn't a goal career wise. It was just something that was fun to me. That was
fun to do, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was so young, and and I'm trying to finish this up so I can go watch, I don't know, Looney Tunes. You know what I'm saying? My brother and me, some stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So then, where's the point? Like, is there a point that you hit that like you're singing? You're performing at weddings. Where's the point that comes when you're like, I kind of want to, I want to write my own? When did you start writing your own music?
Damn, that is an excellent question, bro. I love this. You're excellent at this. So I wrote the first song I ever wrote was at 14 or 15.
Oh, wow. So that's like real close after 13.
Yeah, man. Wow. And I never even thought, and I'm going to tell you how it started because I was brought in front of record labels at a young age. Wow. Yeah, I know, right? I'm scatterbrained. So I was being presented in front of, record labels, taking studios and things like that. And I remember the first thing that my mom told me that this woman that worked with A&R, whatever she was at the time, I should know better. But she told my mom, she said, yes, he's got it. But does he write? And so my mom was like, I don't know. She said, that's the ticket. He needs to write.
Yeah.
Because that's where the creativity and the checks and the money comes in. Yeah. He won't be as successful if he's not writing his music. Yeah. And so then when that was communicated to me, then that's when I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and do it. And so I wrote my very first song at that age.
Do you remember what it was called?
It was a gospel song. Back when I had my virginity. Wow. Back in those days. And it was talking about God being real. I think it was called I Know You're Real. Okay. And yeah, that was what that was. And so my first music mentor from the choir, I sung it and he, produced the music. And there was a big church in Charlotte that used to have this thing called On Time. Now, this is actually when the performance thing connected. Okay. And so before their service, Sunday night services, which were jam-packed, you had to make it on time. It started at 7. At 7 o'clock, they close the doors and they have a special guest, special artist or whatever. Yeah. So I did that year, and I will never forget like seeing people. Because my voice at the time, it wasn't necessarily a gospel-y voice. Yeah. It was very smooth, very mellow, like panty dropper. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So you got this young kid with this smooth mature voice. And so but to see people where certain people's like, oh, praise the Lord. Mine, it was more of where people just sat back and was like, and he vibed. Wow. And when I saw that, and then you start seeing people just stand up and rock and raise their hands. Yeah. And it was like, oh, that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just remembered, okay, yeah, I think I could do this. Wow. You know what I'm saying? It was like right then and there. And then the standing ovation, and to see the sincere, you know what I'm saying? Appreciation and reception from people. Like, that was when I was like, okay, I wrote this, they like it. I feel like they like it. Maybe I can do something. You know what I'm saying? I might not be Michael, but I might have something here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's when it connected for me. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. So then growing up, when you kind of started to be like, I can write music, who did you listen to as who were your influences as far as grow up that you probably still listen to today? Bro, that is a great question. So at that age, I've always loved Babyface. I've always thought he was just phenomenal. I thought he was great. My favorite artist now, and I loved her back then, was Anita Baker. She's always, and you hear me bring up Anita Baker. As a matter of fact, and the musical influences that I have came from what my parents listened to. My dad, I really attribute a lot of my musical interest and my diversity in music to my parents. Because music was always played in my house. My parents have and had phenomenal taste in music. Yeah. And that was what made me so versatile. Because we were going from freaking Steely Dan to George Benson, to A Tribe Called Quest, to Barbra Streisand, to Celtic Women, to Dolly Parton, to Stevie Wonder, to Cameo, to Whitney Houston, who I adored when I was younger. She was like my favorite singer. And then when I got older and my voice started developing, I started relating to Anita Baker more. But we would go pick him up or drop him off early in the morning at the ship. And Anita Baker or Sade will always be playing. And bro, I was like 3 years old identifying with those beautiful sounds.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was just, it just fascinated me because music, it's a vibration.
Yeah.
You know, our body is vibration. You know, we are 70-something% water. Water vibrates, you know. And so just, I always felt the vibrations from music. And it affected, you know, my anatomy.
That's crazy.
At such a young age. And so listening to Anita Baker and Babyface and Celtic Women, listening to Enya, you know, Björk. Those are people who Cameo. I mean, smooth jazz was kind of like my first because the chord progressions in smooth jazz, traditional, you know, straight ahead jazz, of course, but it was something about how smooth jazz was, and it just stuck with me. So we were listening to, you know, like I said, George Benson, Gerald Albright, Boney James, you know what I'm saying? Of course, we threw in some Wynton Marsalis, and you would listen to the Miles Davises and things like that. But we had a jazz station, Smooth Jazz 92.7 back in the day, and I would literally, after doing my homework, I wouldn't watch TV. I would be at my boombox, dating myself, listening to music for hours. Hours, bro. I mean, it was amazing how much time I spent listening to music. Like, no, you know how some people, they would have their broom or their comb,
singing into
I
like
was
a
just
mic
at the boombox, like just listening to the different sounds and textures, and just, you know, at a young age, it just stimulated me, man.
That's
what influenced me.
That makes a lot of sense, because I remember it's crazy, because I don't know if I ever told the way that I got kind of in wanting to sing. It's funny because first I kind of got into rap before anything, and kind of a little bit different from your thing. Like my mom and my dad never really were into music.
What?
Yeah. Like it was more so like, well, I'll say my mom, she did love music, but she never kind of like was always playing music or anything like that. It was more so just to herself. So she like loved Prince. And like I actually like didn't even know. I kind of developed it like myself, and then like my older sister and like my friends. That's how I kind of got my interest. And so it's funny because I think the way I got myself into singing was initially I started off with rap. Because I used to really want to rap super hard.
Which you do extremely well.
Thank you. And like, I remember it was actually a Latin rapper that like influenced me. And it was this Puerto Rican Latin rapper named Tego Calderon.
Calderon. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Come on.
And like, I remember hearing him, and I was like, yo, this dude, he was smooth. Of course, being a man, and I was like, he was smooth with the ladies. Like, he knew how to rap, and like, he stood his ground. And he's like considered a legend now. But I remember hearing that, and then I remember being introduced to a lot of New York music, and so like boom bap, and I was like at the time, I think, you know, the South was just starting to take over as far as like their sound, but I never really connected with it as much. And when I kind of got introduced to like Erykah Badu,
you know, Pisces like us, by the way.
Exactly. And Sade and all them, and I was like, when I first heard like Erykah Badu, I was like, who is this?
So unique,
and I like fell in love with her voice and her music and how she just sang. And it was so hypnotizing. Same thing with Sade. So smooth. Oh my God, yeah. And then I think after that, I was like, wow, I started to do like research. So a lot of the old school artists, kind of like your Teddy Pendergrass, Peebo Bryson.
Yeah. Real. You went the real.
Yeah. I went like super deep because what happened was hip hop introduced me to that because they used to sample a lot. Them. Yep. And then I would be like, well, let me hear the original record. And I'd be like, wow, there's so much soul in this. And I fell in love with it. So what I would end up doing is I would produce, but I would look for records to sample, but then I would also listen to the music. And then I fell in love with like, you know, all the groups and like George Benson, you know, Marvin Gaye and all these people. And I was like, how did I never know about these people? But it, you know, my mom and my dad just didn't have that kind of like love for it. Like it just kind of grew. And next thing I was just like digging. I did a lot of digging on luckily YouTube and then also going to like record stores. And then after that, like hearing like Barry White. And then I was like, oh, like, because I think I used to have like a issue with my image. You know, I was like a bigger kid, and I was like, you know, there ain't nobody like that. And then I saw Barry White. I was like, Barry White's a big dude, smooth, yeah, singing, man. Ladies love him, and I was like, oh, I could do this.
Yes.
And so like I would look to artists, but then I was always self-conscious about my voice because I think I didn't have as much confidence, or I didn't know how to really get into it. And then I think I did a lot of records by myself where I'm like, okay, this is just for me, like to kind of explore. And then afterwards, then like got introduced to you here in Atlanta, and I was like, oh no, I can do this, you know? And it kind of was like this long road. And then to now I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I wanted to be. So it just took a little bit, but it was fine. But it's funny because my life is always like that, where things never kind of happen when I want them to. They happen when they need to happen for me. And so like, but like, cause there's like other stuff that happened, like as far as, you know, for being a photographer and videographer, like I was like, you know, I'm ready to handle this type of thing, this type of event, such, and it never happened until like maybe like a little bit later. And then it was almost like, well, now you're ready, you know? And so it's like, I'm always like, I guess I consider myself like a late bloomer to everything. Everybody always say, you're like a late bloomer. And I'm like, yeah. And then I used to kind of like not like that, but then I was like, well, no, I think that's actually better for me because I think sometimes, you know, sometimes you kind of feel like, well, I can handle anything. But in reality, if that were to happen, you'd be like, hold on, I'm not ready for this yet, you know? And so, but then, yeah, I say all that to say that like my route to it was so funny because I went to singing through hip hop. In a way, because, you know, you had your Mary J. Blige and all these people, all these singers and stuff. And so, and I found it that way. And then eventually I got into like alternative R&B, and I was like, ooh, I love this over here. You know, this is like my area that I like, because I think I didn't want to just sing exclusively one thing. I always wanted to jump around and be able to kind of chameleon my way through different genres, which I really liked. And so, but yeah,
that's an interesting way because it's like it was in you and you brought it around you versus it being around you. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly.
Like, wow.
And it's so funny because I just kind of like there was like this one album that I listened to, and I remember listening to it and I was like, oh, I want more of this. Because the first thing that I was ever attracted to in music was production. That was like, I was like, who made this beat? You know, because I connected with it so much, and I was like, you know, I was like, I want to create stuff like this. And so I think when I was like first listening to Latin rap, and then I found how you say it? Soulquarians, like, you know, that's Erykah Badu and all the Q-Tip, all that type of like real neo soul / hip hop, but like
Soulquarians. I've never heard that. You taught me something new. I like that.
That was like the group with, you know, Jay Dilla, Erykah Badu, Q-Tip, all these different like artists who made like real dope stuff. D'Angelo was in there. And so when I heard stuff like that, and I was like, ooh, that's where I was like, I want to make stuff like this. You know, it just connected with me.
And it's something about their chord progressions. That particular style and the textures that they use that was just like, man, it just hit differently.
Yes. It was real wild. No, but yeah, so like my way into singing kind of went like a different route. It was funny because it went through rap, because like I was, for a while, like I still rap to this day, like on occasion, but I enjoy singing so much more.
I noticed that about you, bro, is that when you got into singing, you actually, because when I first met you and started lessons, I was listening to things that had more rap. More of your music, it was more rap. And now, like, you have evolved into, when you discovered, you know, the capacity of your instrument, it was like, wow, this dude is singing a whole lot more. I love it.
I don't know. I think it's for me, the way I think why I'm drawn to singing a lot more than rapping, which I love. I'm always going to love hip hop and everything, but I think singing, there's so much you can say with fewer words and the emotion that comes through in that delivery. And so like, there's like a bunch of records that like I'll listen to a lot that it's just like, it's like almost like singing. Like I said, you could say a phrase or something, and then like the music behind it kind of helps and gives you even much more meaning and emotion behind it. That it's like, rap is dope, and you can say a lot in rap and sound like crazy, but it's like, it's just, there's that difference in it, you know?
It is a difference. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why rap became more melodic nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. You know? I think there was this song called, what's the name? I know it's by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. And there's a song, it's like, what is it? I Miss You. And it's, of course, you know, I think if you know the group, Teddy Pendergrass was in the group before he went by himself, I think. Oh, wow. I think I remember that. I hope I remember that. But
he was I ain't saying nothing because I don't know.
Yeah, he was the like one of the lead singers, and then he kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna do my own thing. But hearing him sing, he had this moment where he just like I miss you, miss you, miss you. Something as simple as those small words hold a lot, and they mean a lot. If you've been, had your experiences and stuff like that, and just hearing that soul behind it, like you can feel it. You know what I mean? Because there's like some artists out there, and it's nothing against them, but like sometimes you can kind of tell who's experienced things versus who hasn't.
I agree. You know what? And that's why I tell, as a vocal coach, I always tell vocalists that not only your maturity as an artist, it's not just physical. It's emotional.
Yeah.
It's mental, it's spiritual, and that maturity helps to make you a better singer because you're able to sing from experiences, and it's much more sincere. And so it's true, like that the soul of singing from experience is so much richer.
Yeah.
And to that point, that's why I can't stand this ageism that we have in the industry. Now, am I going too far? Because
no, yeah, keep going.
Because it's like there's so much more. And everyone experiences things in different parts of their life. But collectively speaking, there's so much to an artist when they reach their 30s and 40s and 50s. And they're able to sing with such integrity because of what they've gone through and experienced.
Yeah.
And even back in the day, that's why we love the greats that we love today, because, their careers didn't cut off just because they turned.
Yeah.
30, 31. I'm
exactly.
like, when was that old?
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's like this crazy. And, your voice aligns with that maturity. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, all of the experiences and the things that I feel and those abstract, values and areas of my life are now able to come together so beautifully and convey to people and communicate to people vocally.
Yeah.
And that soul, like you talked about, is so much more pungent and sharp. And that's why we get penetrated by it. Because think about it, we still to this day are still listening and referring back to those people.
No, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. It's funny you say that because like it's funny because like I think when music first started, like in the era of like soul, it's like most of those singers were like in their 30s and their 40s, and just like they were singing about their experiences when they were young, and I think really, like I guess you had your young groups like, your Jackson 5s and stuff. And I know they made great music, but at the same time, you're like, I mean, y'all still kids, but it's still great music.
Right.
But like, I think, then nowadays, it got a little bit younger, and I don't know when it kind of began where it's like, well, you're too old if it's past this point. But I always thought in my head, I'm like, well, no, I mean, back in the day, I mean, it's
Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, and them. Sorry, I hate cutting people. I'm sorry.
No,
but they were on these performances in their tuxes in their 40s, 30s, 50s. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. And I kind of feel like that kind of wave is actually coming back because, I mean, even if you look at today, even like the Isley Brothers are still touring, all these groups that are still going. Yeah, they're still going, and there's still people want to see that, and I think with time, I think what happened is it's just, as everything evolves, time goes on, everything evolves. And so now, you have these crazy, like talented young artists, but I think what's going to happen, I kind of feel like life is like a cycle. And so things that were old are going to become new again.
Yes.
And then, you're going to get, you're going to have a little bit more fewer older artists.
Yes.
And they're going to still perform, and, because like music to me, you never stop really making music.
Never.
If you're like an artist, you never stop writing, you never stop composing, or anything like that. And so I think the wave of like, being okay to be in your 30s or 40s singing is gonna like come back and be more popular.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just how it's gonna be. But
I agree with you, because there are so many people that are in those age groups that are, and I know everybody's different, but not getting where they should because of that ageism.
Yeah.
And they're singing these, youngins at the water, as they should, because a lot of people think that just you're supposed to sound your best in your 20s, and you're not. We talk about that lessons, as the voice peaks and it matures. As long as you take care of it, it's going to continue to get better. It's you have youthful qualities in the voice that that drop as you mature. But no, the dexterity, the tonal quality, the richness, that stuff gets better. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And, that's why we have, like, you nailed it when you were talking about, we talked about the OJs, and you mentioned, oh my gosh, what was the other group that you...
The Isley Brothers?
The Isley Brothers. Patti LaBelle and Shaka Khan are still
killing it.
Going, Charlie Wilson.
Yeah, still going.
Still, Tina Turner. Like, these people are still rolling on the river. You know what I'm saying? And killing it. And we are looking to them like... Oh, Stevie Wonder. Yeah. Lord, we cannot lose. Look, make him immortal because we need to put him on ice because we done lost too many great people. I need somebody to grab Stevie, grab Patty, grab Shaka, grab Gladys, and just put them in that little chamber. Okay.
No,
because we need them.
Yeah. And it's funny, but I think a lot of that has to do with like, I kind of feel like maybe social media, because I was watching something and like every now and then I'll get on TikTok and watch these videos and then I don't, it happens in society where there came a point, well, maybe because it's also like, maybe back in the day had to do with it too. I don't want to just put this on like everybody now, but back the time, as like I was saying, as time goes on, things evolve. So back in the day, in your 20s, you kind of experienced a lot. If you, in those times, back in the days in like the 60s, 70s, 80s.
I agree.
And nowadays, I kind of feel like in your 20s, you're kind of like an adult preteen. You're still fucking up. You're still messing up, making mistakes. And you even as you get in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll still make mistakes, but you'll have more experience and stuff.
That's true.
And like, even like me, I'm 32 now. And I'm just like, well, I kind of feel like I'm still like growing and learning, I'm just now becoming an adult, and so I think society, because I think growing up, there were moments like, well, by 27, you need to have this in order. That kind of thing started to happen. And I think that was like a thing of the past that kind of were like, this is how life should be. But then what they kind of forgot to realize is that the life that you lived is not the life that I'm going to live. Things change,
Yes.
And people don't realize that. And then you kind of I used to have a thing where I was like, oh shit, I need to have, 2 kids by 30.
Just
and I need
pressure, bro.
Yeah, pressure. But then after I was like, why the fuck am I trying to live the way that they want me to live versus like me, living how I want to live?
Yes. Like, I feel like that's a prescribed way of living. You're not going to give somebody a prescription for a cancer prescription that has alopecia. It's prescribed ways. And so certain prescriptions are for different things. And just like different ways of life are for different people. And it's like, if we try to fit those social, quote unquote norms, which they're not, because if everybody lived to that social norm, we probably wouldn't have the major things that we have and love and enjoy today. Because what if, somebody got married before their time? Will we have Uber or Amazon or electric? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, that's why you got to follow your own path. And I agree with you on that one. It's like, you felt pressure. Oh, if I'm not married and have 3.5 kids and 2 dogs and a white picket fence and a maid named Alice, you know what I'm saying? By this time, then I'm a failure.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, nah. And you're right. Like the quality of life for the singers that we refer to was different back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
The quality of life, and that's the whole thing, is quality, because the way they live life, you're right, they did not have social media.
Yeah.
Like they did, their television programs and everything, the censorship was different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything was just geared towards a different type of goal. Yeah. And nowadays it's just, everybody's just like, hell, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you know what? Hey, in certain ways, thank goodness for that freedom. And in other ways, it's like, ooh, but where do we draw a line?
No, exactly. And I think that's fun. That is one thing that I like about the new generation that's coming up behind us. Is like, they're like, we don't give a fuck. We're about to do any and everything and just whatever, which I do like that. I kind of like that little bit of rebelliousness in there. But the last question I wanted to ask you. Oh, I'm having so much fun. Last question I want to ask you is, how do you, where do you think / how do you feel, and how do you feel about the state of music? Or what do you think it's going, or where would you like it to go?
I'm going to answer this honestly. Man, the quality of music today has completely diminished. The machine, the integrity, the structure, the infrastructure of it has changed, and it has completely, with the advancement of technology and the shortness of people's attention span, it has completely, in my opinion, in more ways degraded.
Okay.
What I do love about it, to your point, is how we are not afraid and we're able to distribute our own music.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
And we are able to have creative control, and we have platforms to where I don't have to look like what you want me, these people, you know what I'm saying? I went through that when I first moved to Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? And, I was, being presented in front of, some really cool people, but they were like, and that's the thing, you tell an artist, oh, what you have is unique, it's different, it's fresh. But then you want to try to make this artist into 6,000 other ones that are already doing it. They're doing that quite well. And let them do what they do, because that's how we have the Erykah Badu's and the India Iries and the James Browns and the Michael Jacksons and the Princes and all these people, because they were able to be who they are. Were they influenced from other people? Yeah, that's good. But they were still who they are, and their music has so much integrity. And I feel like the music industry today, there's work that needs to be done. I think we need to get back to what's important.
Yeah.
And that is the quality of the content, supporting our artists, because it is a labor of love.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, our artists deserve and need that support, because it refuels them so that they can give us more. Because like I said, music is not just entertainment. It's philanthropic. It's humanitarian. It's spiritual. It heals people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I believe needs to change. One of the many things that need to change in the industry.
Yeah.
So that we can keep pumping out. Because you're hearing a lot. I remember when T-Pain, shout out to T-Pain, because he was telling people, do something else.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
when he was like, dude, all of y'all are doing the same thing.
Yeah, do something.
And I'm gonna go for it. There are fresh artists out here who are amazing and doing them.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm glad they're able to distribute their own music nowadays and don't have to be signed to a major label. But it's our people allowing it and appreciating it the way they should, so that it can move up and we can say, okay, wow, we have what we need.
Exactly.
So that's my opinion.
No, definitely. And I'm with you, because I think what I like about where it's going is it feels like I'm glad because back in the day you had to sign to a label in order to be seen and to be out there. But nowadays everybody is on the fight for like, hey, be independent. That's what you want to be. Sure, it might be a little bit more work. You might put in a little bit more legroom, but at least you have control of your music. You don't have to like change yourself to kind of fit a kind of cookie cutter thing, And so I do like that. I think it's interesting the way music is going, because I think if you would ask me a year ago, I probably would have felt different than I feel now, because like I actually kind of miss music from back in the day that was like, it's gonna be funny, it's like 8 minutes long.
Bruh,
when they used to talk during the song in the intro, and they kind of led into it, because like you said, it was almost like going to church in a way.
It was an experience.
Yeah, they were talking to you, and they were like, like I remember, like I go back to that Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. He's like, he's like, I saw you the other day, and just he's telling a story and then going into the song, and then every now and then they'd break in and go back to conversation.
Yes.
And it was wild, and I was like, wow, I kind of missed that, because now sometimes there's some artists who are doing dope things, but sometimes I kind of miss that connection. It almost feels like, hey, I do music, here it is, there you go, and then leave, which is cool, which you're doing thing, but I wish some of that would come back, where people would kind of do these things of like, giving you an experience, so to speak, And I'm pretty sure there might be artists who are doing it. I just don't see them, And I hope that they get more exposure or they get more pushed up. And so, cause like I think at first I was scared of this, but now I enjoy it, is how you were talking about. So people's attention spans are going down, as far as like social media and stuff. And I was like, oh man, I hope we just don't start to make music like 30 seconds long.
Because on Spotify, people are now making like that song by Kelly Rowland, Coffee, that I love. So it's only 2 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, I wish it was longer, but I don't mind keep playing it because I love her.
Exactly.
And she looked hot in that. Did you see that video? She looks just absolutely just steaming hot. Just absolutely beautiful.
That's crazy.
And there's a point that I wanted to add, like before, but in addition to social media, I remember the appreciation for artists now has gone down because they're giving so much of themselves.
Of course.
You remember waiting a week or two for Michael Jackson to have a Dateline or Nightline or 2020 special, or we're waiting for Whitney Houston to do their Barbara Walters interview so we can find out and the cameras go behind the scenes indirectly.
Yeah.
And you get a picture into their life. Nowadays, people got their phones. Hey, here I am on the toilet. Or here I am in the studio. It's like the wonder and the mystery of it. Or Barbara Streisand, who's another one of my favorite singers, she talked about how in an old interview, the mystique of the celebrity is gone.
Oh, yeah.
There's no mystery to them anymore. So now the excitement, excuse me, and the appreciation is not the same. And like you said, because of social media, we got them arguing about who baby daddy bought them the last Birkin bag on, you know what I'm saying? And then we have the reality television where it takes these stars. And now it's like you don't anticipate the material that they're going to bring out as much because there's no mystery. Everything is just here you go, hurry up, microwave. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
So yeah, I agree with you on that one, bro.
I remember back in the day waiting a year or two. You know, there's some artists that are doing it now, like a Kendrick Lamar, who he's an artist, and he's like, he's like, I dropped a project, went on tour. All right, I'm gonna be gone for 4 years. Or like a Frank Ocean who took like 8 years off.
Yes.
Kind of like living life, you know, and they're like,
yes.
You know, it's like, it's kind of like, I like what Andre 3000 does. Like, that's like a goal of mine. He kind of like, I did my music, but I'm going to go be a normal person. And he has like, it's a little flute. You'll catch him sometimes, but he's kind of like a unicorn out there, you know?
He is. I saw him at a New Year's Eve party. It was a very small party. I think it was only like 40 to 50 people.
Wow.
And he was literally right. And I'm like, he had on like this cool denim, overall kind of suit with a denim jacket. And he just like, oh yeah, what's up? And I'm like, Andre, he was so casual, just chilling. And I'm like, wow, to have that type of freedom, you know, to, like you said, just to have that mind power, you know what I'm saying? That also contributes to the quality of music if an artist is able to live their life and do what they want to do, you know? So that's a very good point on that one, bro.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of artists like that made songs about their experiences that you're like, wow. Like I think the one example is if you remember Fleetwood Mac, Dreams.
Bro.
Like that was about a relationship within the band. Like
her and that, was it the drummer or the other
the guitarist?
Guitarist. Yeah.
And like I remember listening to the demo. There's a demo you can look on YouTube that's crazy, where it's like her when she was first writing it, and it sounds crazy because the song completed now is amazing, but like the demo,
everybody loves that song.
Yes, amazing song, and but no, it's getting to live life and experience, because I think, you know, sometimes in social media you get caught up in the hype. And you kind of feel like you have to post, you have to do these things when you don't really.
It's pressure that we have cultivated ourselves, and it's unnecessary. Yeah. You know, have you ever just taken a break from your social media for a while?
Oh my God.
And been like, oh, I don't have to be a slave.
It feels amazing to leave. It feels amazing to leave.
And you know, Pisces, we don't like a lot of socializing anyway. So anything social with it that we can pull back from, we're like, yeah, let's do it.
Exactly. No, that it feels amazing. But yeah, I think that's the perfect place to end it, because that's crazy. That's amazing. This conversation is amazing.
Man, this is wonderful.
Once again, Avery, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Of course.
This has been so much fun.
One more time for people who are listening or watching, promote anything you want to push, like your social media or just anything you got coming up, or where they can find you.
Okay, so of course, you can check out my EP Perspective. It is on all platforms. I don't know why I didn't see that. That's just going to show you. I got to get back. And then you can also check me out on my social media, which is Instagram at Avery, Avery Floyd, Floyd Jr. And yeah, I'm a vocal coach. Hit me up if you're interested in lessons, art development. I work with the complete vocal professional, singers, rappers, spoken word, poets, public speakers, storytellers, pastors, all of that. So, and I'm also a songwriter, producer, and a vocal producer as well too. So if you need some work in the studio on your harmonies, or just, you know, making sure you're doing the best you can to deliver your vocal on your record so it can sound the best it can, hit your bro up.
Definitely hit up Avery.
Avery Floyd
He's amazing. He's amazing. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you subscribe, or if you have already, thank you so much. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow. Thank you. Follow Afternoon Programming on Instagram at Afternoon Programming. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.